Guys, today we're going to be breaking down the FPS podcast with Joe Blackburn. By the way, you can check out this entire interview over at SkillUp's channel, which I highly advise that you do. Even if it's not for that interview, this man has got the best reviews you can find on gaming. Let me just say, I wait for the golden stamp from SkillUp. If he says, get this game, I get that game. But really, guys, his channel's down below. Please go show him some love. Literally the best review content out there. With that being said, let's talk about this interview. Now, first up, SkillUp is a co-host of this podcast along with Jake Balladino, Lucy James, and Gerard. And they just had on game director Joe Blackburn. Now, Joe is the game director for all of Destiny 2. And this is actually a perfect time for an interview considering the game is launched, Lightfall is in our hands, player reception has been set in. Today's video is essentially going to highlight all the most interesting moments of the interview and some of our own thoughts as well. This is going to be a bit different than our normal interviews that we cover since we're not so much teasing things to come, but taking a moment to digest what Lightfall did good and what it did bad, and get an inside perspective into Bungie's operations surrounding a big expansion launch like this. And of course, answering the question, what the hell is the Veil? Now, 19 minutes and 30 seconds of the interview, it was stated that Bungie's focus is now to work on helping new players understand the broader story of Destiny, something more in depth than the ink blot cutscene that they made, recapping the entire storyline. Now that Guardian ranks exist to guide players through the game's content, there still needs to be a better system to tackle the narrative. No lie, at this point, Bungie, we just need a TV series or something. There's too much lore. Scratch that. There's never enough lore. Now, 20 minutes and 34 seconds, SkillUp asks Joe what the Veil is. Great job, Ralph. My man coming out swinging. Joe explains that it is not something that they're going to dive into on the podcast though, but more information is coming on the Veil in-game very soon. Now, Bungie actually posted some pictures on Twitter of what the Veil is, and it's kind of funny because Bungie's like, here, you want to know what the Veil is? Boom, here's some pictures. And we're still like, okay, what is it? Is it a fruit? Is that like supposed to be some sort of tree? A ship? I will say this, guys, we are working on a lore video and is going to theorize about everything that the Veil actually is. We think we're getting somewhere. Granted, at the same time, we could be completely wrong, but be looking out for that video. Now, 22 minutes and 16 seconds, SkillUp asked Joe what player feedback was like on the first few days following Lightfall. Joe compares it to a professional game of basketball. Bungie has another game next week, so there's not time to sit around and lick their wounds over failure in one game. Only time to apply those learnings to the next one. Unanimous player feedback is very easy to work with. What's hard is divided player opinions. Those types of design decisions require more problem solving and data to find the best solution. Usually, when the player base is divided on a certain topic, the Bungie developers are as well. I love this right here because this is not something that's just consolidated to the player base. Bungie is very much a fan of their own game. So the fact that we are sitting here saying we didn't like how the narrative came out, and Bungie developers, some of them are feeling the exact same way, that's a good thing, guys. That means change is going to occur. Now, I do want to mention everything else about Lightfall I have very much enjoyed. Strand, amazing. Build crafting, amazing. Loadouts, best quality of life changes I've seen across the board. Yes, we've had bugs, things disabled. My favorite glaive builds were destroyed. Even despite those things, I have to say, Lightfall has been a success. Where it fell flat was the narrative. And when I say fell flat, I mean from the perspective of where we hoped Lightfall would have brought us. And fellas, maybe I just overhyped myself. What I do like about what Joe just said here is that he's not shrinking away from the feedback. They're seeing it, they're facing it, and they're realizing that the year ahead is going to be a slugfest, and that's all right. Keep in mind, guys, some of the best content Bungie has ever made has been when their back has been against the wall. To this day, I say Curse of Osiris was the best expansion Bungie has ever made, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, but Curse of Osiris was such a bad expansion that it literally put Bungie in a corner, and it made them fight ruthlessly for survival. Now, I'm not saying we're in that situation right now, but you can best believe Bungie is on their back foot right now, which means the content is going to pop. Now, 30 minutes and 47 seconds, SkillUp asks how Joe has received Lightfall and what he thinks its strengths and weaknesses are. Joe actually gives a pretty interesting answer here. After an expansion launch, he blocks out his entire calendar for 1 week, and that's his time to dive into the game and just play. He's still attending meetings and other business, but that's all secondary to him just taking time to play the game. Part of the process is frequenting LFG communities and seeing player reactions to the game. Sometimes he's anonymous, but other times players will recognize him. Either way, it gives him an opportunity to sit back and listen to the community and ask people their thoughts about the content. Guys, at the end of the day, the reason why we like Joe so much is he's a gamer. Like, he plays Destiny. Nothing irritates me more than seeing a head dev or director never actually pick the game up. But the fact that Joe actually secludes a week to just be a player, that level of isolation, that right there allows you to get a full feel of that entire expansion. Now, 39 minutes and 30 seconds, SkillUp asks about Root of Nightmares and what Joe's thoughts are on the current difficulty level of the raid experience. Now, Joe doesn't want to get out out ahead of the team, who's been looking over player feedback on the raid, but he did hint at the weight the Final Shape expansion holds as the pinnacle of Destiny's story. And he also said that the team is taking that into consideration when planning what the day one experience should look like next year. Now, some of our thoughts on this: if the Witness is the final raid boss in Destiny, that is literally the perfect opportunity to make it the hardest raid we have ever done, like that true marathon experience. We do not need the Witness to be some gigantic pushover. And you know, King Gadalion actually put out a tweet the other day where he talked about Root of Nightmares being that raid for everyone to experience. And perhaps this is the raid that lets every new player to just dip their toes right before they hit us with the Omega raid. Now, could it be Cope? Possibly. But if the Witness, being the greatest antagonist we have ever faced, turns out to be a bust, well, Final Shape, without a doubt, will go down as one of the worst expansions of Destiny 2. And I know I'm sounding over dramatic here, but it's true. At 43 minutes and 14 seconds, Skillab asks why Destiny is successful as a live service game. Joe believes it's due to the resilient approach of the studio, pivoting with player feedback, being able to present strong ideas to the table, but willing to give them up if they suck and players want something else. What I will say, the resiliency of Bungie is very admirable. And the reason why I bring that up is that you saw after Anthem launch, EA folded. And let me just say this, Anthem had the potential to be a great live service game. Did we dunk on it? Sure. Did everybody dunk on it? Absolutely. And rightfully so. But Anthem had the core to become a very good live service game. But two things happened. EA buckled and BioWare buckled. Both didn't have the stomach to get in the ring and slug it out, to look bad player feedback in the face and do that giant overhaul that we wanted to see. We wanted to see that Final Fantasy, a Realm Reborn approach. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 launched and it was terrible, awful. So much so that Square Enix was like, yo, we're scrapping it. You're getting a whole new game, better than this. And we promised we're gonna deliver. And they did. The reason why I applaud Bungie on this front is that whenever it came down to it and their publisher didn't like the direction that Bungie was trying to take Destiny, Bungie backed out of the deal. They got out from underneath that publisher. They left Activision. They bought the rights to Destiny 2, and they've been going strong since. They know this is their flagship game. Now, 48 minutes and 50 seconds, Skillab asks Joe if he believes live service is hard, and if no one has eaten Destiny's lunch because the format is so difficult to pull off. Joe believes Destiny marries together an RPG with an industry-leading action game. Two ideas that are very hard to merge together. While other live service games come and go, no one has done that better than Destiny. I've said it time and time again, guys, one of the most magical formulas that Destiny brings is really PvE and PvP. Like, yes, it's got RPG elements to it, but the fact that you can take builds from PvE and bring it inside of PvP and utilize it. Hell, this past weekend, we've been using nothing but threadlings inside of PvP. What should be just a dominant PvE build is absolutely eating players up inside of PvP, and vice versa. You get that God roll inside of PvP and bring it inside of PvE, and it pops off. Y'all remember Mountaintop? It was definitely the PvE meta. Now, I know my dedicated PvP players want to stay in just PvP, and my dedicated PvE players want to just stay in PvE. But again, in my opinion, what makes Destiny beautiful is the constant merging of both of those sides to the game. It almost feels like you're getting two games. And there's a lot of other live service games out there, but they don't seem to marry things up as well. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying PvP is fantastic. By all means, we need that blog post and we need it now. We're supposed to be getting some major overhauls to PvP soon. Bungie, I need to see it. I want to know what it is. Now, at 53 minutes, Skillab asks what the foundational pillars Bungie is trying to hit in the Final Shape. Now, Joe said one of the planes that they want to land is the story of the Traveler and the pyramids, closing off that chapter and showing what else the Destiny universe has to offer. Now, we know this coming up August, probably similar to like last year's Lightfall reveal, not only are we going to see what Final Shape is bringing, but we're also going to be seeing whatever it is Bungie's planning to do after Final Shape. I think a lot of people are saying it's got to be Destiny 3. But more so than that, who in the world is going to be the big baddie? Like the Light and Darkness saga, that has been everything now for a decade. But Joe has been the one that's been talking so openly about something coming, even beyond the Light and Darkness saga. So I really think this coming up August, or whenever Bungie actually does their Final Shape reveal, we're going to see this. So guys, that is our breakdown from the interview. Again, if you want to check out even more information, and if you want to watch this entire interview from start to finish, a link to that will be in the description below. Again, please go show some love to Skill Up. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.